Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first webinar of 2026. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for people to join. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's joining. Thank you for the Sifflet team for organizing. Hi, everyone. Welcome. All right. I hope everyone can see my screen fine. Okay, great. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Salma Bakouk. I'm CEO and co-founder here at Sifflet. Sifflet is a AI-powered data observability platform, but we go a bit beyond that, especially as data observability as a category has matured over the past year or so. So really, Sifflet is the control plane for data reliability. We connect to your entire data stack and give you visibility over your technical metadata. We tie it to business context. We map lineage end to end. And we have recently launched 3 agents that make the exercise around data observability even more autonomous. Our agents, Forge, Sentinel, and Sage, I mentioned them in the opposite order of when they launched, are built in a way that tackle 3 main things: building your monitoring strategy automatically, helping you investigate and have a diagnosis of the incidents, and finally investigate root cause and propose the fix. So you can go from detection to resolution in minutes and not days. Today, I'm walking you through 7 predictions for data and AI in 2026. We try to come up with these predictions every year around this time. This is not just an opinionated overview over where we think the space is headed. As a context, we're making these predictions by the work that we do with Sifflet, with hundreds of enterprises and data teams over the world, companies like Penguin Random House, Euronext, Saint-Gobain, CMA CGM, Euronext, etc. And we see these patterns in how data infrastructure is evolving, how people are allocating budgets as they go, how they're thinking about data strategy, and more importantly, where does trust, governance, and reliability sit in the middle of all of that, especially as we go into a phase where AI is very much in production, and all of us here are on the hook to deliver. So without further ado, we can get started with our webinar, and I will start with prediction number 0, which is the unsexy truth that nobody wants to hear, but unfortunately it's still the reality of a lot of data leaders today. So before we get into the exciting stuff about AI agents and semantic layers, I want to ground us in reality, and remind everyone that in 2026, schema changes will continue to break your pipelines. Nulls will still corrupt your dashboards. Volume anomalies will still hit at 2 a.m. And these things are not new problems. Gartner actually has been doing a lot of work and research on the topic, and has been estimating data quality to cost organizations around $13 million a year on average. And actually, based on the work we've done with hundreds of customers over the years, these data quality issues are often not even tied to exotic edge cases. It's predominantly tied to the same problems that we've dealing with for decades. Someone changing the code and it breaks things downstream in production. Someone changing something in the model and it breaks the schema. Someone querying the wrong pipeline, and then the result is off, etc. And so these things have unfortunately been something that data leaders and data practitioners have to deal with for decades. What's changing now, especially as AI goes more into production, is not whether things break. And actually, this is the reason why data observability emerged as a category roughly 5 years ago, as a promise to data leaders to go from a world where we were flying blind and learning about data incidents after the fact, and often after the business is suffering the result. So data observability emerged as a way to help organizations kind of be proactive about the detection, right? And that's the key distinction that I want to make today, and we'll get to that into more detail in a bit. Is that data observability provided that visibility into the incidents, but now we are getting to a place where this is considered basic data management, where you have to test your pipelines, you have to have basic anomaly detection framework in place, you have to know when things are breaking, etc. So we no longer are flying blind. However, the stakes keep getting higher, and so a lot is required from us as data leaders, and a lot is required from us as data observability vendors. And I'm very excited to talk about what we have in store later on. So in 2026, the main difference is not whether things will break. Things will continue to break as complexity will only continue to increase. The thing that 2026 is going to bring, hopefully, and what we hope to bring with Sifflet is how you detect the incidents and how you quantify those incidents, how you quantify the impact of the incidents, and how you can manage the resolution in a way that makes sense in terms of resources of the team, but also in terms of building trust and reliability across the whole data infrastructure. The second prediction is with regards to metadata kind of gaining center stage again. And this is the result of a lot of changes that took place in the data infrastructure over the past few years. I'm sure nobody here is unaware of the revolution that took place in storage and how open table formats are now the de facto way, and how much of a flexibility the iceberg format is bringing to the data infrastructure. And we've now moved from a place where the question is no longer where do you store your data. That question is basically settled. And Iceberg, as I'm sure all of you know, is popular for a reason. It lets you store your data once and then query it from different engines, whether that's Snowflake, Databricks, Spark, DuckDB, etc., interchangeably. So it's an amazing and a huge promise. And it essentially provides an additional layer of flexibility to data infrastructures, to data leaders, that is going to be necessary in this next phase of AI adoption. However, the thing that is still not settled yet, and what I believe will define the next decade of data platforms, and certainly how data infrastructure vendors are going to be building their roadmaps around this year and the next year, is who owns the metadata layer. Okay. Because once you decouple storage from compute, and once you kind of move away from one vendor or one type of technology controlling where your data is being stored and how compute is being built around it, metadata becomes the only place where everything critical lives. Okay, so your lineage, your quality rules, your access controls, the health status of your data assets, your business context, and that all of that is going to be increasingly more important and increasingly more critical in making sure that you actually can gain the full potential of the flexibility that comes with the open table format. And increasingly now, as we adopt AI more at scale at enterprises, the metadata is the layer where AI can actually reason about your data, and where agents are going to be able to provide us with even greater flexibility when it comes to data infrastructure and data operations. And we'll talk about that in a bit. From the various conversations we have with our customers, as these folks are standardizing on Iceberg, data lives in open storage formats rather than locked inside the data warehouse. Lineage and quality monitoring and metadata management need to work at the Iceberg layer, not just at the Snowflake or the Databricks layer. And that's why you see every major player in the space, Snowflake, Databricks, dbt, kind of fighting to own the metadata layer further, and trying to kind of gain more insights and more control over this control plane, for lack of better words. Which is why, and obviously I'm biased as the founder of a data observability platform, but data observability was built as kind of the control plane for data reliability, and as the center stage for where metadata lives and gets activated in a way that helps folks achieve more trust in their data, and kind of benefit from all the flexibility that's been offered by the innovation in the data infrastructure. Moving on to prediction number 2, which is actually tied to prediction number 1, which is about the death of the modern data stack. I know it's a bit dramatic to say, but we have witnessed a big consolidation wave in the data infrastructure, especially over the past year, which in my opinion, it was inevitable. Too many tools, too much glue code, too much cognitive load, too much, vendor management, etc. And we saw it happening a lot last year with Snowflake absorbing more surface area, Databricks moving upstack, obviously dbt and Fivetran merger, etc. But there is one key point on one key mistake that I keep seeing, is that people assume that observability is just going to get bundled away into one of these platforms. It cannot per default, and it will not, because the answer is very simple. Data observability isn't a workflow, right? It's not ingestion, it's not transformation, it's not BI, it's the actual control plane of all these operations, okay? And actually, we've seen something very similar in software, where as further consolidation took place over cloud applications and software development in general, observability emerged as an independent, actually the keyword, as an independent player, to keep a certain level of trustworthiness and standardization across the different tools and the different workflows that people are going to be navigating and having to deal with. And so even in a world of fewer platforms, your data will still flow across different systems. You still have legacy systems. Failures will still propagate across different layers. And business impact, the one thing that actually really matters, sits outside any of these single data tools. And so while consolidation is inevitable and will simplify a lot of the workflows that data leaders have to deal with, observability becomes something that is non-negotiable, and it's no longer just a matter of figuring out where things are breaking or how to isolate the incident, etc. Is a matter of having observability being as ubiquitous as your data is. So whatever data lives, you want your observability framework to be plugged into it to make sure that you are not missing out on anything that can go wrong. Which brings me to the dimension that makes observability actually useful. And for those of you who know me or know Sifflet, we've been very vocal about business context when it comes to data reliability and data observability. And more importantly, and in all candor, we've been very open and honest about how we think data observability, broadly speaking, as a category of product, has underdelivered over the past few years. Why is that the case? As I said in the beginning of this conversation, data observability took us from a world where we were flying blind, we were shipping dashboards, we were building analytics projects, and we didn't know what was wrong, we didn't know what was breaking, and we thought that all these issues were due to us not knowing how to monitor volume, or how to monitor, when schema breaks, or how to observe lineage, etc. And all those things are good. They took us from a place of, as I say, like flying blind to some visibility and some observability. And as much as I like the analogy between software and data, I think that is fundamentally where we went wrong with data observability, is that we tried to build Datadog for data, and we tried to build another tool for the engineers, and another tool that was very aimed at treating data as like a technical product. And I think that is fundamentally where we went wrong, by underestimating the impact of business context as a data quality dimension. And actually, one of the things that I feel strongly about personally, and that set us apart with Sifflet, is that we never considered data quality to be just a data engineering problem, and we never dissociated business context as a data quality dimension. So in a world where everyone is talking about volume, freshness, schema, duplication as data observability foundations or fundamentals, we consider business context to be just as important, if not more important. And so in 2026, business context becomes a first-class data quality dimension alongside all of the technical data quality metrics that you all are used to referencing and using. So if you look at my slide on the left side, and this is me attempting to explain why business context is important, even without going into AI and agents reasoning autonomously on business context, etc. Let's just stay in the world of analytics for a second. Without business context, every alert looks the same. Data engineering teams are going to be drowning in alerts. This is something we hear about every day, especially from some of our customers or prospects that have been using another solution in the past. The business finds issues first, okay, because they're the ones that feel the pain. The data engineers are completely outside of the loop. They don't know whether something is breaking. Is important because it's impacting a reporting dashboard, or it's important because it's the 10th alert you get today, and it's the 100th item on your backlog, right? The firefighting is often done reactive, and obviously in a world where and I will talk about it in a second, in a world where agents and are coming for data operations and for data infrastructure, these agents will not be able to point to the right asset and to the right context. In a world with business context, and with Sifflet, we've already taken this step in a quite an explicit way since we started our company and since we started building the product. Is our alerts are always going to be tied to some form of business context, whether it's revenue at risk or a certain ownership or a certain business domain. Prioritization is going to be done by impact, so engineers don't have to be flying blind or having to guess what's important and what's not. They can be proactive before the business feel the pain. And more importantly, now in this agentic era, agents can actually point to what is of a high level of accuracy and tied to the business, and can triage and route autonomously. And this takes us from a place where data observability is just another thing that the data engineers have to deal with, to data observability being a means to an end, which is achieving trust and tying data quality to business context and to real business impact. And that's why we built Sifflet. And before I move to my next prediction, that's why we built Sifflet, which is the only data observability platform that is business context aware. We built that from day one. Context isn't a feature. It's the difference between alert fatigue and having a robust and autonomous data observability framework. Speaking of agents, this is the prediction that I am most convinced about, and that also makes me slightly nervous. We can talk for hours about how software as an industry is being challenged and changed. And for those of you who follow the markets, you must have seen how volatile it's been for traditional software companies, because buyer behavior is changing. We are moving from a place where software is helping us get more automation and streamline certain tasks, etc., to now having these AI native solutions and these agents do the work for us, right? And giving us even greater bandwidth to focus on real differentiating tasks and real value driving tasks. And so the data infrastructure as an industry is no exception. Agents are coming for data infrastructure. And we've already started to see that with a lot of vendors in the space launching autonomous agents. We see ETL agents that are orchestrating their own pipelines. We see BI agents embedded in certain BI tools, and obviously data quality agents. And we have our own data quality agents that do monitoring strategy, incident diagnosis, and root cause analysis, root cause analysis, as well as resolution, which is coming very soon. Now, the difference between an agent that's going to be reasoning without observability and an agent that's going to be reasoning with context and observability is somewhat obvious. But back to the point that I was trying to make earlier with regards to business context becoming a key dimension in data observability and in data reliability, broadly speaking, is that now these agents are going to operate blindly if there is no level of business context and reliable business context that is provided to them. The agent is not going to know the difference between dashboard V1, V2, and dashboard that is related to this business operation that is being fed to this CFO dashboard, etc. And so business context is becoming even more prominent and important in this case. We're going to need these agents to understand lineage, ownership, SLAs, business impact, etc., to really achieve trust at scale. And this is one of the things that sets us apart at Sifflet versus other traditional data observability players is because we are able to harvest the business context and we are able to add it as a data quality dimension. Our own observability agents are going to be a lot more accurate than a traditional observability agent that's reasoning on top of technical metadata and traditional volume drifts and what have you. Now, let's zoom out on how this changes the entire infrastructure playbook. So the data stack, as we know it, RIP, the modern data stack, was built to serve dashboards, right? It was built for the SQL era. It was built when companies were moving from becoming software companies to wanting to become data companies. But now we are moving to a world where AI is the primary consumer of data. Okay, and here's the thing: AI models are far less forgiving of bad data than humans and dashboards. Okay, a human can see an outlier on a dashboard and ignores it, or can get crafty around it and say, actually, no, we're going to provide some context, or I'm going to go ask the team what that means, etc. A model simply will train on it, and an agent will even act on it, right? And so if I were to give you a concrete example, I'm sure you've all seen the article that was published by OpenAI recently, which was a deep look at the internal data agents, right? Extremely exciting things, very promising. But it was very interesting to see that even one of the most prominent companies in this AI revolution can't just point an LLM at a data warehouse and get reliable answers, right? They needed 6 layers of context, okay? They needed schema metadata, they needed human annotation, they needed code level definitions, they needed RAG across internal documentation, organizational memory, live queries, etc. So 6 dimensions in order for them to get reliable answers by pointing an LLM to a data warehouse. And so really what I'm trying to say here is if even OpenAI cannot skip the context layer and they needed 6 layers of context just for their data agents to be able to be autonomous in a data infrastructure, nobody else can. And so for those of us who think that having some basic volume checks and plugging agents on top of your data infrastructure and just praying for the best, that is just not fundamentally and from an architectural perspective, it's just not possible. And so this brings me back to the point I was making earlier about all these companies launching these agents and promising autonomous agents doing things on behalf of your data infrastructure. And I said at the beginning, that's both exciting and scary. It's exciting because that's the world we live in, and it's very fascinating to see all this technology do these amazing things. It is scary because none of these traditional data infrastructure software vendors has access and control over the metadata in a comprehensive way that allows them to actually ship those agents in a way that is reliable and that can be deployed without having to worry about everything these agents are doing. If anything, actually, this creates another problem for us, which I'm sure another vendor will try to sell you a solution for, which is observability of these agents. So that's a topic for another day, and I'm happy to do another webinar to talk about it. But it is very important to really stress test the reliability and the viability of these agents on data infrastructure based on how they're being trained, how these LLMs are behaving with your data operations, what context do they have access to, how reliable is that context before we can actually move in production with these things. And the bridge between the world of AI native and AI bolted on, as I put here, AI bolted on is what I call when chatbots are built on dashboards and co-pilots and AI agents are just built on top of your traditional software, and reliability is a second-class citizen, and business context is inexistent, versus AI native, which is something like what we're going to have at Sifflet, which is the context is built in, the agents are built with observability built into them, quality validation is something that is built in, etc. The bridge between these two worlds is what leads me to our final prediction, which is, and I'm sure many of you are going to guess it right, the return of the semantic layer and the reliability of the semantic layer. So undeniable, semantic layers are making a huge comeback. It's very exciting. The timing isn't accidental at all. There has been 3 forces that have been driving the return of the semantic layer. First of all, AI and LLMs need structured context to reason about data. They can't just query raw tables. Okay. Second, headless BI is requiring consistent metrics across every tool. And last but not least, tooling is maturing very fast. And I predict, this is not a prediction, unofficial, that every data infrastructure or data vendor is going to have some form of semantic layer that's going to be embedded in their offering as context takes center stage. In order for the semantic layer to actually provide the intelligence that it needs to provide. Now, where is this headed? Semantic layers won't just serve dashboards anymore, okay? There will be a key driver of how AI agents are being powered with structured context, reliable context. They will enable business impact-driven observability, which is something we already do at Sifflet. And they will essentially become the bridge between raw data and business use cases, which is something that I said in the beginning is what's been missing in how data observability has been delivering as a category of software in general. And at Sifflet, this is not an afterthought. This has been our core vision. We've always believed that semantic layers make data intelligent and make observability more intelligent, more trustworthy, and you definitely need both. I will try to wrap up very quickly as we're coming on to the last few minutes of our webinar. Bottom line, we spent the last decade making the data stack bigger, more complex, more tools, more pipelines, more flexibility, more alerts, etc. In 2026, it's all about consolidation, getting back to the basics of what matters. We need to stop dissociating data from the business. That is a mistake that we've made in the data infrastructure over the past decade, especially now as open formats settle storage. The stack consolidates, semantic layer takes center stage, metadata is king again. Agents are going to start doing the work that humans used to do, and we need business context to be at the center of trust and reliability, and the layer that connects technical reality to business reality. So I have one challenge for all of you this week, and feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or on email after this webinar. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know, when something breaks in your data, how long does it take until the business feels it? And how long does it take for the data engineers to understand the impact, quantify it, and solve it? If the answer is hours or days, you have a context problem, not a tooling problem. Thank you very much. So now I want to open the floor for questions, and I'm very sorry we went over time. All right. I'm going to ask my colleague, Michele, if you have any questions. I see a question from Akil. Akil is asking, what is the key differentiator for Sifflet versus other data observability platforms? That's a really good question. And to recap what I've been saying since the beginning, Sifflet is today the only data observability platform that ties technical metadata to real business outcome and to contextual metadata. And so you're not just looking at this pipeline is breaking because someone changed something. You're also being able to quantify the business impact downstream. How is this related to a business process, etc., so that the data engineers can act reliably and can be more efficient in the troubleshooting. Number two, we're also the only data observability platform today that has 3 independent autonomous agents, Sentinel, Sage, and Forge, that are going to act as an intelligence layer that does monitoring suggestions, incident management, root cause analysis, etc. Okay, another question. Can you briefly tell us about the AI agent specifically? The AI monitor recommendation, like how does it help and how is it implemented? That's a really great question. So our agent that does the monitoring recommendation, it's called Sage. Essentially what Sage does is that it's going to connect to your entire data infrastructure from ingestion all the way to how the data is being consumed. It's going to scan the metadata, the logs. It's going to read the code. It's going to look at historical patterns, and it's going to suggest a monitoring strategy based on that information that's going to be processed by the agent and based on the signals that the agent is going to be observing over the analysis of your data infrastructure. And at this point, or up until this day, the agent is with the assistance of a human. So the human is in the loop, validating the monitors, suggesting that the agent is coming up with, and kind of, giving the green lights before the agent can deploy the monitors suggested. But since we've launched it in September of last year, our current monitor creation by our customer base increased by 35x. So there has been an increase of 35x in monitor creation since we deployed the agent. So it's really solved a huge bottleneck for our users, and it allowed even less technical users to be able to deploy monitors at scale. Jean-Baptiste, thank you for the great presentation. Do you see a link between data observability and data governance? And what is your prediction about the evolution of that part? This is a really good question. I've always been of the view that data governance is an end goal and data observability is a tool. right? And so a data observability solution can help you achieve better governance and better reliability over your data infrastructure overall. However, if what you mean by data governance is the traditional workflows around policy management, access control, PII tagging, etc., some data observability solutions like Sifflet cover that aspect already. Some other more specialized use cases are going to be covered by the traditional, data governance vendors or data catalog vendors. We connect to those and we can leverage that metadata back and forth. But to answer your question on how the evolution, the conversion of that space is going to happen, I do think there will always be a need, especially in the regulated industries, for specialized solutions that handle policy management and some very specific and technical regulatory use cases. And I think for those, you need specific tooling. However, I do think that data observability, especially as we evolve to becoming the control plane for their reliability, should be able to consolidate all that information under one roof and serve that observability data to the user so that they can leverage it the way they want. A concept that I'm a big fan of, that we enable a lot of our customers to do, is be able to surface and come up with this concept of health quality score. And something that I say to our customers all the time is that their reliability is in the eye of the beholder. And so maybe for me, a reliable data asset means that the volume is checked, the ingestion has been done successfully, there is no other technical anomalies. But maybe for you, that reliable asset also means that it's free of PII data, that it's not getting data from any domain it shouldn't be getting data from, that the users that have access to it are in a specific domain, etc. And that's what you call a reliable data asset. So I do think that data observability solutions, and that's something that Sifflet certainly does, should be able to consolidate all of that information, all of that metadata around the behavior of a data asset, and allow the end user to be able to make sense of what makes sense to them and to quantify data quality and their reliability the way it makes sense for them and for their business. Which brings us again to the point that I've been making since the beginning, which is business context being the data quality dimension. In this case, this very much qualifies as a business context, and as context you need to qualify the reliability of your data asset further. We have another question from Jean-Baptiste. We have a debate internally between data observability tooling and data catalog. Do you think there is a consolidation ahead? Jean-Baptiste, you are not alone. This is a conversation and a question I get almost every day. It depends what your use case is. If your use case is data discovery, right? You want to know what's in your data estate. You want to be able to document your assets. You want to be able to have a basic business glossary. You want to be able to map lineage and ownership, etc. Then you don't need the data catalog, or you could use a basic data discovery tool. We at Sifflet certainly offer one that covers that basic need. If your use case, if you work at a regulated industry, if you're a bank, or if you're in a like an insurance company or a pharma company, then your use case might be slightly more technical from like a governance perspective, and you might need to comply with certain policies. You might need to have certain nuanced business definitions as to what is reliable and what is allowed and what is in regulation, etc. In that case, you might need advanced governance properties, and that's when it makes sense to go and look for a data governance or data privacy solution that can allow you to cover that specific use case. Regardless of where you land, I do think your data observability platform, which is going to cover both your technical and non-technical metrics monitoring, for lack of better words, should be able to consolidate that information in a way that creates a single source of truth around reliability. And that is very important, because what you don't want to have is a tool that tells you this data asset is reliable because it looked at technical metadata, and another tool telling you this tool is, or this asset is not reliable because it's breaching some access control, right? You want to have a single, or you want to have a consolidated vision over how that asset is being qualified and have the information on how it's being qualified. And you can only do that by leveraging as much metadata as possible, both technical and contextual, under the same platform. I hope that answered your question. Please feel free to reach out offline if you want to have a deeper conversation. We have another question. With Sifflet, are you able to prioritize the issue log based on the business impact and to manage escalation? 100%. That is Sifflet's key differentiator today in the market, is that we don't look at incidents just from a technical perspective. We actually are able, to the extent we have access to your contextual metadata, to provide further qualifiers that add business context and business impact to the incident, so that you are working effectively to prioritize the alerts based on what matters to the business. And that's not, it's actually not just about the incident resolution itself. For example, we had an incident with one of our big customers in the media space where the model, and this again brings a point that I forgot to mention, which is dashboards break when there's bad data. Models don't necessarily break. I mean, you don't see it breaking, it just deteriorates over time because it's been training over a bad data. But anyways, they were using our own anomaly detection model, right, which is primarily ML based, and they noticed a drop in their ads business, and so the engineer was going to qualify that as something that the model should just ignore and move on. And they were looking at Sifflet and looking at a competitor platform that was just looking at technical context. But when they looked at it from the lenses of Sifflet, they realized that that incident was actually expected, because that was around the time the Queen of England died, and the platform had paused the ads business, and so that drop was to be expected, and it shouldn't be ignored by the model. And so it's these like small things that compound over time with the lack of actual tie to business impact that can impact how reliability is adopted, and how, you know, overall the chain reaction around it is created and adopted. And yes, absolutely, that helps manage escalation, helps manage prioritization on the data engineer side, etc. Because the last thing you want is a tool that tells you something breaks every 2 seconds, and you don't know why you should even act. All right, we are over time. I'm happy to take a couple more questions if they are on your side. Any, Michele? How do I reach out to you for potential partnership opportunity? You can, I think we have a form on the website for partnerships. Feel free to reach us there. All right. I think we're good to go. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please feel free to reach me on LinkedIn or on email. And please take a look at our most recent buyer's guide for data observability. It gives a lot of concrete insights as to what you need to be looking for if data observability is on your roadmap for this year and you don't know where to start in the sea of all the solutions that are available. Happy to have a one-on-one conversation as well. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Bye-bye.